G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. Perfectionism. It's a personality trait that's often admired. However, it's in fact a flaw. It is characterized by setting unrealistic, high standards. In fact, it's a flaw driven by fear of failure and a craving for approval. While many achieve some high level of achievement, it is often miscategorized as perfection, and it creates a succession of people trying to live up to this new standard where you get burnout, anxiety, procrastination. It is often leading to others questioning their self-worth. It's where perfectionists get their gratification from. They literally are happy watching others fail to live up to their standards. And as perfectionists become more and more admired as false idols, because it's an impossibly high standard and only a few can achieve, what you have is a relentless downfall of society in excellence and achievements of others are diminished. But this is exactly what feminists want. One, the modern woman created herself a triple threat. One, feminism set an impossibly high standard for women to meet up to. All your top achieving feminists, they won't tell you that they were funded by the CIA or many or non-governmental organizations or film studios or modeling agencies or advertising firms. They hyped up these women, created this artificial assumption and praise as perfection. So they created the perfect woman trap, where men are shown as absent-minded or buffoons. We go back to Marilyn Monroe with Don Lemon. Is it Don Lemon? Marilyn's movie, The 7-Year Itch. Right, men often portrayed around Marilyn Monroe as bumbling idiots, drooling over her. Jane Fonda. All these. Over the years, we've had many women who have been portrayed higher than they really are. They are actresses given roles. They are given scripts. In the tech and in the general business world, women in tech often find themselves having to overcompensate their achievements, overstate to keep up with what they perceive as male-dominated fields. So this mindset of having to be perfect just to be seen as competent sets them up for failure. We look at women CEOs who have Kathleen Kennedy, the CEO of Cracker Barrel. We've seen it every year, failure after failure. Intersectionality politics have, of course, distorted the field. Where we now have a distorted playing field in the workplace, where states, countries are forcing their businesses to hire people who are underqualified, leading to anxiety, fear of failure, and unable to meet expectations. And the protection from criticism is creating enmity in the workplace. So you can't win. Now, the biggest threat, of course, is feminism is the new Puritanism. And in fact, you see this in that the feminist movement itself is undergoing a constant purity test. The Pussy Hat March, all the feminist books, all the feminist tapes. You know, you're not a good feminist unless you have a Jane Fonda workout video. You're not a good feminist unless you have this book by Germaine Greer. $20 million from the CIA buys a lot of advertising and goodwill, doesn't it? I'm not accusing. Germaine herself admitted a unfeminist from Australia got millions from the CIA to promote feminism around the world. And she's not the only one. A lot of them have admitted to taking money. And then they say, it never changed my mind on anything. Often not. They were recruited because they were Puritans, okay? I have no idea why the CIA would do this. You'd have to ask them. But the good feminist, again, has to have the right language, the right mindset. In other words, you have to humiliate your husband and then fatten him up like a pig, and then humiliate him again, and then dice him up and take his wealth. And you're a good you're supposed to be. The problem is, this is creating a lot of unhappy, shattered people, because at the end of the day, friendships are unfulfilling, short-lived, or disastrous. In that, often you find out your friend is actually giving you bad advice on purpose, so they can laugh behind your back. Oh, now you're as miserable as me. Ha ha ha. Now we can go out and drinking and be miserable together. Now, the good feminist myth has created a rebellion within feminism, in that you've seen videos before I've played where, what, feminism has rules now? I'm no longer a feminist because feminism has rules now. People are actually leaving the feminist movement because they have rules. The lack of personal growth. You have to be a feminist from day one, and you're not allowed to have personal growth. You have to follow the Jane Fonda workout or the Germaine Greer business cycle or whatever. Whatever the female athlete, you know, be a good little female athlete, and you can't recreate your life in others. This is a fundamental flaw that humanity just cannot seem to comprehend. That we read books on how successful people became successful. Step 1, get $1 million. Step 2, make a big political donation. 3, your business suddenly starts getting all these government contracts, and you keep making political donations for the rest of your life. That's the reality. I remember the allegations about Bill Gates all the way back to 1979. There are many allegations about corruption, bribery, flying people out in Learjets to sit to his little business office in Seattle. He was set up to succeed because he got, since university, through his father's connections, he was set up to succeed. And feminists is now trying to do that successful business model for themselves with, but there's only so much wealth to go around. Here's the thing. The more wealth in society, it actually flattens out. And society will always balance, right? You'll always have people who lose money, win money, give away money. Some will spend more than others. Some will spend frivolously. Some will make achievements with their wealth and become even wealthier. You just can't give everybody equality. So feminists has created a losing business model of anxiety to be perfectionist, to be the perfect ideal women, and then the an inevitable misery that comes from failing to live up to expectations, and the impact. Well, women are less likely to take a academic course where they may only get an average score, and then go for the safer, higher marks, right? So they may not challenge themselves because the fear of failure. So they'll take the easy job. They'll take the safe working hours. They will take that 9 to 5 with weekends off and long holiday time. Now, this does actually protect your mental health, but the pressure on women to rise the corporate ladder, the problem is the corporate ladder is not a tall building, which everyone just sits in a row and every year just goes across one seat until you reach the CEO's office. No, CEOs do not stay around for a year. They stay around forever. They may change board positions. They may go to other companies. But that top rung of the ladder does not circulate. And this has... We don't live for a short time. We actually do live a relatively long time compared to everything else. So this idea of rising the corporate ladder, not taking the safe bet, these are things that drive women. I know striving is a good thing in society, but we're not talking about people who are striving to striving for that promotion at work. They're striving to achieve, they're coming into the company as secretary and thinking, ABC, next year we're going to, I have a 10-year career plan. I'm going to be CEO in 20 years and I'm going to be there forever. Yeah. Men, right, are more likely to hold on, right, and thus, even though the majority will drop out and fail, but yeah. So this is, again, keeping up with the men. It's like the new keeping up with the Joneses. Like, women are setting themselves up for fail by keeping up with someone stronger, far more rugged than them, and far more individualistic. And the mental health issues aside, the major driver of anxiety and depression amongst women is the idea that perfectionism is effortless. Right? These I wouldn't call them makeup ads, although they allegedly advertise, hair color. But you see it all the time, but you don't realise it because most men tune out. You're worth it because you're you. It's so easy. It's no effort. Beauty takes no effort, So it sets up this idea that if you're good looking, you'll be successful. And so women who aren't as good looking as everyone else, or as good looking as the cover model of the magazine who is airbrushed, Photoshop, or AI edited, is also wearing makeup. So they put on the same makeup thinking they're going to get the same results. There are already so many, jobs for people, and there are only so many people who are willing to pay big money for someone to stand under a studio, light a lamp, and get photographed. And a lot of the time, the reason why they do it is because their product is making such a huge amount of money. They want to make advertising unattainable for anyone else. So, because a lot of these advertising companies, their business is not advertising products. Their business is psychological manipulation. And their business is taking a major toll on the mental health of young women. They know it, but because young women with damaged mental health are bigger consumers than any other demographic, they pump up the volume. Feminism, it's why big companies pay big money for feminists, because they're gifted psychological manipulators. Refining success. Perfectionism is being argued by Catherine Morgan Schaefer as a superpower, and has proof, her first 100K. How many perfectionists have we seen rise and fall in failure and misery? George Lucas. Now, we're not talking men. We see it more with men. The creator of Buffy, what's his name? I forget now. We've seen a lot of male directors recently fall from grace, but we rarely see the women. Why? Because they disappear quickly. Okay, when women fall from grace, they disappear very quickly. They don't want to stick around in the public limelight. They don't want to, except maybe Charlize Theron, but she got no shame. But unlearning perfectionism will liberate the mind from the paradox of perfectionism. Perfectionists always assume the worst. They suffer from overwhelming pressure, often creating procrastination as they're trying to decide every last nuance, every last detail. Driven by fear of failure, they become trapped in a cycle of self-criticism, difficulty being happy, or whenever they achieve success, it's never enough. They often will eventually fall into depression, burnout, or anxiety, or obsessive-compulsive behavior. They become defensive of their successes. They become just as possessive of that. When it comes to failure, they treat them as if they were still successes and become even more possessive of them. There, got it out correctly this time. So, I forget his name, but I'm trying to think. A lot of feminists, they keep reinventing themselves. That's the problem. They have large organisations behind each and every major feminist you see on TV, particularly if they're promoting a book, has a big organisation behind them. And even feminist authors, 50 Shades of Grey. She worked for the BBC. It was endorsed by the BBC. Yes, she wrote her book on a cafe app, but she was also a scriptwriter for the BBC. She's married to a scriptwriter for the BBC. The BBC recommended her script to a studio and secured her a massive deal. So people often turn around and say, success is so easy. No, often you'll find out that success was handed to them by people who, and this is what happens, right? They have an ulterior motive. They want the flow back, right? They want the goodwill, or they want a share, right? So what happens? The artificially gifted success, you now have to continue that success. So you get 1, 2, declining quality. Like The Force Awakens, right? The Farce Awakens, 2 billion. But then you have declining box office success. Same with Marvel. When they had time planning, and success? Well, the same with careers. You have to build your skills. You have to build your goodwill. And be careful who you step on. And feminists, the first thing they do is they step on people on the way up. They set unrealistic goals for people following behind them, so they hoping they will setting them up for failure. So you've got to overcome perfectionism and consider striving for excellence, to do your best, to focus not on the errors, just focus on quality. An error happens, it happens to everyone. You accept and you move on. Men can do this better than women, I know, but you have to abandon perfectionism. Whether you're male or female, we're not going to be Jesus. We are not Jesus. We have to stop living under this shadow of everyone has to become as good as Jesus, because nobody can seem to figure out what is the exact, right? Oh, Jesus wouldn't buy a gun. Well, he told his followers to. So, yeah. I mean, by should. So, you have to give up this notion that most of these people who claim to know Jesus are one-liners. One-liners. So, that's what you have to do. Abandon these one-line quotes of slogans. Abandon the idea that you can achieve a flawless achievement, right? If it happens, it happens. But what you have to do is strive for your best. And when you do have something go wrong, self-analysis without harsh language. And focus on action. Okay? You have tasks. You have steps. You don't have to break each task down. You don't have to constantly go over each step, plotting, planning, rehearsing. A lot of the best actors will tell you there's a difference between practice and rehearsal, right? Practice, you read your lines, practice your lines. Rehearsal, on the night before, you can do it over and over again. It doesn't change, right? The hardest part is learning your lines. Acting out is the easy part. The hard part is learning your lines. So you practice your lines, rehearse once. It's the same thing with anything. You practice by doing. You do the weakest. You work on your weak points, but then you have to rehearse the whole thing. But you don't have to do it over and over again, right? You want it to be fresh. You want it to not... Because if you do something over and over again, you know it numbs the mind, right? You do anything too much, now, your self-worth should not be governed by external organizations. Unfortunately, feminism it's a mind virus, right? Women have seen others achieve phenomenal success as feminists, so they think, me too. Madonna sold millions of albums by convincing everyone she's a feminist, and gaining even more fame for using and abusing young men. So you can understand why, she's the perfect feminist, and people want to live up to that standard, but they can't achieve it, and they fall flat. Again, this is a toll on mental health, and the hardest thing about perfectionists and people wanting to be perfectionists is to not mimic people with bad behavior, even just because they become successful. It's the hardest thing to talk people down from the preface, right? It's easier to save a life when they're not in early intervention. It's hard when they're at the edge, staring down at the abyss. It's too late. A lot of people, too late. They get to the end of their life. They're absolutely miserable. They're angry. They're bitter. And that's what feminism is. It turns people into angry, bitter. And again, we've seen them become extremely rich, but we don't see the messy life, the mental torment, the breakdowns, the drug abuse, the rehab, the toll it takes on their life, and then the lonely, cold misery they suffer in old age. Because they hide. They are hidden away. Because the feminist machine is a huge money-making machine. It creates corporate consumption. It is the driving factor behind a lot of consumerism. And once you see it, whether it's makeup, female perfectionism, makeup, overpriced clothing, worse, fast fashion, you're in a $200 suit getting turned down by a woman who's wearing $20 worth of clothes, full stop. You're not good enough for me. So you have both ends of the scale here, right? You have the high-end fashion, low-end fashion industry that consumes billions of tons of cotton, billions of tons of water, creates the 150 million tons of garbage a year, right? So we have the largest source of garbage from industry is fast fashion for women. They are so cheaply made, they can afford to sell only half their clothes and still make a profit. China has a huge glut of clothing. That's why their economy is slowing down. India is struggling. The whole world suffers from this obsession with overproduction in order to drive everyone else out of business. So you have feminism has created environmental, economic. It's unsustainable economically, socially, politically, right? And of course, they've created mgtow. So feminists, through their greed, their narcissism, through their selfish desires, destroyed the world. They're celebrating they've destroyed the world, and they just can't accept that no one's coming to their rescue. No one cares. But it's still worth pointing out. So, that they don't care. And they're going to go miserably to their doom. Because they cannot think past their own self-gratification. Like, have you ever heard the statement, biting your nose off to spite your face? That's a feminist. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Please support the channel. You support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.